Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about the October lull. It's October 13th today, and this has been fresh in my mind, and I've been kind of thinking through the causes of what we call the October lull. Is it really an actual thing? Is it a bad time to hunt? Is it a good time to hunt? And so let's just talk about a few points here about what might cause the October lull, and also how you can deal with it, I guess. Now, the first thing to keep in mind is that October is a month that things are rapidly changing. They're changing for the deer, they're changing in the environment and the habitat and the food. And that's a big part of the October lull and why bow hunting seems like it slows down. Let's just quickly talk through 6 key points here of the October lull and what we're looking at. Now, one of the most important things is through the month of September, the bachelor groups are starting to break up, and by the 1st of October, they're pretty much broken up, and the bucks are pretty much on their own. They're still somewhat together, but they're just not traveling together like best buddies all the time. And so the bucks are actually moving and changing their use of habitat and so forth, and that's particularly true as October goes on. The leaves are falling and the dynamics of the environment is changing, and areas that looked like they're nice thick cover a month ago are now looking kind of bare because of the leaves have fallen off most of the ground cover, like what we have right here where I'm standing. So that's the key point, is that the bucks are on the move and they're changing location based on the changes in their daily environment and where they're going to bed and so forth, and where they feel secure. Okay, the second thing that's really changing is the weather. It's like October is a time period, particularly in the northern half of the U.S., where you got cold fronts coming through, and the weather's changing. Some days you'll have really windy days, sometimes you'll have just nice balmy seeming like day, and the next thing you know you got a 70-degree day, and the next day it's a high of 48 with a northwest wind, and the weather continues to change, and so the deer have to adapt. The third thing that's changing during October is the fact that the food sources are rapidly changing day after day after day. The acorns that were on the ground during September and the first maybe week of October, they're getting cleaned up. The soybeans are harvested. The wheat is harvested. The corn is coming out every day. The combines are in the field. And the bucks that are so accustomed to having that cover of corn in the farm country, all of a sudden it's bare, and they just have to adapt and change to that. So that's another thing that's changing, and it's causing these bucks to sort of be in a state of flux instead of in a normal pattern that you would expect to find. Dispersal is another part of what's happening. The bucks are moving from their early fall, late summer patterns into their fall patterns. They're starting to get a little bit of, I guess it's kind of early to call it a pre-rut, but they're laying down a lot of sign, a lot of scrapes and rubs, and they're moving to new areas. They tend to have a summer area and a fall area, and they might be a few miles apart even, or even more than that. And so they've kind of moved, and so you think you're not getting trail camera pictures of this buck that you got lots of pictures of in August and September. You think, well, he's just not moving because it's the October lull. Well, it could be that he's a couple miles away on someone else's property right now, and somebody's out there and they're going, man, where'd this buck come from? The fifth thing is something that most people don't even really think about, and that is the fact that the days are just getting shorter and shorter and shorter. For example, here in Minnesota where I live, the days are changing. They're getting shorter by about 6 minutes a day, every day. And, we're going from really long days in the summer to really short days in the winter. So a buck that you saw, say, coming out in the evening at 7:30 and feeding in a field or walking down a trail in the daylight, all of a sudden, all you're getting is dark pictures of him, and it's still 7:30. That's the deal. He's coming through at the same time. It's just dark. So that's another thing. It's tougher to hunt when you got a shorter window of daylight to hunt in. So the deer may be on somewhat predictable time patterns, but it's not daylight exclusive patterns anymore. It might actually be nighttime exclusive patterns. And the sixth thing that contributes, and this is a pretty big one, that contributes to what I believe people consider the October lull is the fact that there's just more hunting pressure. And people are getting into the woods. You know, most bow seasons start throughout the month of September. By the 1st of October, pretty much all the bow seasons are going in all the states. And you got people in the woods, and it's not just bow hunters. A lot of bow hunters will wait until November to really get serious. But you got your grouse hunters out there, you got your duck and goose hunters, squirrel hunters. You got just a lot of people in the woods. So the deer are naturally just going to adapt to that extra hunting pressure. They're getting bumped once in a while. They're smelling more ground scent in the woods. They're seeing people, hearing activity, and so forth. And they don't go underground, but they definitely learn to adapt to that situation. So is there an October lull? I guess in a way there kind of is, but always keep in mind that the deer, they got to have a place to feel secure, and they got to eat every day. It's not necessarily a time that you should just say, well, it's the October lull, the deer aren't moving, let's just, you know, wait till November. So it's really not necessarily a bad time to hunt. You just have to adapt and understand how their habits have changed and hunt accordingly. Thanks for joining me, and thanks for being a subscriber, and we will talk to you next week.